Good evening and welcome to the Salmon Arm Chamber of Commerce Provincial All Candidates Forum. I'm Shelley Desatel and I'm honored to serve as your moderator for this evening. If everyone could please silence or turn off your cell phones to avoid any disruptions this evening, that would be lovely. Before we begin, the Chamber would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional and unceded territory of the Shikapi people. We extend our gratitude for the opportunity to learn, work, and live on these lands. The Chamber of Commerce is a membership-driven organization that advocates on behalf of its members, serving as the collective voice of our business community. I'd like to take a moment to recognize that our Executive Director, Christine Johns-Barber, who will be managing the timer this evening. Christine has asked me to express her heartfelt thanks to both the candidates and the audience for participating in this important forum. We also want to thank our board members in attendance this evening. We have Taylor Bean, Nathan Grieve, Greg Cowan, and Danielle Ty in attendance with us this evening. Questions for tonight's Q&A were collected from the community in advance. The candidates have not seen the questions, and they will be randomly selected out of a basket that I have here.
We don't get to ask questions?
No questions from the floor this evening.
Oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah.
We will begin by introducing the candidates for the local riding in this provincial election, with opening remarks following an order determined by a random draw.
No, not okay. I encourage you to get to know you guys and asking questions. I have every right to know what you're going to do for my land right now.
There was an opportunity to ask questions prior to the event.
Well, can I write down a couple of questions you asked? And you can ask them, please?
You can have the opportunity to ask questions after the event if you so choose. Each candidate will answer 15 questions with 1 minute allocated to each response. To conclude, the candidates will give their closing statements in reverse order from their introductions. Once the final candidate has spoken, I will close this evening, and we kindly ask that you exit the venue in an orderly fashion. So we are going to start with the introductions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to do their introductions. No, sorry, 3 minutes for their introductions. And we will start our introductions this evening with Sherry Roy.
Good evening. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Sherry Roy. I've lived in this area for over 40 years. My husband and I live in Armstrong. We have 4 children and 8 grandchildren. And like so many British Columbians that I've spoken to over the last several years, we're very concerned about the future of what the future looks for our children around the governing of this province, and in particular, our communities. Everywhere we look in the province, the government is creating more problems that are not resolved, and yet our taxes are the highest they've ever been. And it doesn't seem that that's not is going to stop, and we just don't seem to be addressing or resolving, even though we keep giving more money. So we have, whether it be the economy, housing, healthcare, homelessness, addiction, parental rights, education, farming issues, the education, sorry, I'm very nervous. Being proactive and ready to address the needs that we have, addressing fires, and many more. The political politics has many broken promises, and I'm sorry, I'm just referring to my notes. The political politics and their broken promises are too far removed from the needs of the people. And I believe that, as many others do in British Columbia, it's time to resurrect a more direct relationship with community, so our voices are heard and acted upon. And I'm excited to be a direct link for you as an independent MLA, where I'll bring forward your concerns. I will vote in the legislature for you and not for the party needs. It's time for change.
Thank you. Now we have David William.
What party? Can you say your party too when you identify yourself? I can't see that.
Yeah, thank you all for coming out tonight. It's great to see such a good crowd, and everybody take the time.
What party?
Take the time to come out for this evening. I'm David Williams. I'm with the Conservative Party of British Columbia,
Thank you.
and we're hoping to bring change.
Yes.
A little bit about. Thank you very much. Hey, a little better. Anyways, a little bit about myself. I also have lived in the area for a very long time. My background is I started off in construction, in HVAC, and I transitioned into real estate, and I did that for a few years, and I moved on to work for BC Assessment. So if I look familiar, I've probably been in your house. I used to do assessments all through the North Okanagan and the Shuswap. And when they decided to close the office in Vernon, I actually went to work for the insurance industry. And currently, I do loss control for the insurance industry, appraising high-value homes and farms. And so I'm very familiar with the whole region and all the different communities within our riding. As for personal note, I was married for 38 years. My wife passed away in 2016. I'm currently with a superwoman who I've been with 4 years. We currently live in White Lake. And so we understand all the intricacies of the area and all the different problems we have in this riding. Whether you be a business, whether you be a farmer, whether you work elsewhere, having to go outside the province, I understand. And we want to change things. If we figured that it's time for change. As for the party, we came from grassroots, basically from nowhere, as you know. We are not the opposition party. We are not the governing party. But in the little time that we've been around, we've probably made more changes in the province than the parties that are currently in government or were in opposition. And just think what we could do if we were in government. Some of the things we have to change is obviously affordability, healthcare, wildfire services need to be reviewed, forest management, which goes hand in hand with forest services, and of course there's lots of other little things that we have to deal with. And so we want to bring back affordability to the average family, and we want people staying in this province, and we want small business and farms to succeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and next we will have Sylvia Lindgren.
Good evening. I'm Sylvia Lindgren. The BC NDP candidate. I want to thank you all for coming and for caring about the democratic process. I also want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the land of the Secwepemc people who have lived here since time immemorial. I grew up exploring the stunning landscapes of northern Canada, where our family vacations were filled with camping and boating adventures, and these experiences taught me important skills and life lessons. Since 1994, I've called Salmon Arm home, where my husband and I have raised 3 children. We both work in the school district, and in our free time, we love camping, sailing, and embarking on adventures in our Volkswagen van, creating cherished memories with our 3 grandchildren. I hold a degree in education with a major in supporting individuals with diverse abilities and a minor in outdoor education. For over 40 years, I've dedicated my career to healthcare and education, working with Interior Health, BC Ambulance, and School District 83. As a longtime union member, I spent 9 years on their executive board, including 5 as the president of CUPE 523. My work is defined by my commitment to availability, advocacy, and accountability. I was elected to municipal government in 2018 here in Salmon Arm, and I'm currently serving my 2nd term. During this time, I've gained valuable insights into governance and effective strategies for collaboration. I've built strong relationships with my fellow councillors and several MLAs, witnessing firsthand the power of working together. In fact, during my early years on council, the most frequent feedback I received from both our councillors and from others from other regions was how positive their experience had been working with this BC NDP government, highlighting the collaboration and respect that have led to successful outcomes. In my role on council, I've played a key part in enhancing public safety, expanding our local housing supply, and developing active transportation routes. And as the chair of the Environmental Advisory Committee for 6 years, I've introduced or supported initiatives focused on reducing plastic waste, protecting our water resources, lowering corporate greenhouse gases, and preserving our local tree canopy. Looking ahead, my priorities include addressing climate change, increasing the availability of housing, and reducing the use of pesticides. If elected as your MLA, I will work hard on your priorities. I recognize that recovering from the significant cuts made from the BC United, formerly Liberals, is a difficult journey, but this government is moving us in the right direction. The BC NDP have successfully launched or completed 92 initiatives in our riding alone, including investments in children and families through Affordability Fund and supported homes for community members, 4-laning the Trans-Canada Highway to enhance safety, and through infrastructure and active transportation grants. I'm dedicated to balancing these priorities with effective actions. We cannot afford to return to the underfunded services of the past, which is what John Rustad's government did before and has promised to do again. There's much work to be done, but I'm prepared and I'm looking forward to fighting for you in Victoria.
Thank you. And next we have Jed Weed.
Hi, I would also like to thank you all for coming, and I would like to acknowledge that we're on the unceded territory of the Secwepemc people, and for me, that's a call to action. I want to uplift Indigenous government. I've lived in the Shuswap all my life, and I'm a farmer. And that's why I'm running for the BC Green Party in this election. I'm right in the middle of harvest right now, and during harvest, I've been picking my berries. I'm an elderberry farmer with my partner Louise. I've had a lot of time to think about this election. And what I've been thinking about is how scientists have been telling us for decades that we need to transition from fossil fuels in order to have a livable future. I've lived my entire adult life as sustainably as I possibly could as an individual, meanwhile watching the government consistently fail to tackle climate change. Now experts are saying there's still hope for us to prevent the worst case scenario, but we need to give a wartime effort. And we need to do it right now. And I want to be part of that team because I want to make sure it gets done. So that's why I'm running. I'm running so that the young people in our communities have someone on the ballot that gives them hope that they can have a livable future. In this election, you can vote for a party that denies climate change and will do nothing about it. You can vote for a party that gives lip service to the climate crisis but is beholden to lobbyists and will cave to their demands to cancel the carbon tax. Or you can vote for the only party that believes in science, listens to experts, and will take real action on climate change while supporting British Columbians with increased rebates. We will tackle the climate crisis by redirecting the NDP's massive fossil fuel subsidies into putting people first, a well-being focused platform that will provide a just transition to green jobs and will make improvements to our healthcare system, our education system, and make a monumental investment into reducing the cost of housing through investing in non-market homes, such as nonprofit residential complexes and housing co-ops. A vote for me, Jed Weave and the BC Greens on October 19th is a vote of hope for us to build the future that all British Columbians deserve.
Thank you, Jed. And Greg Clune. Sorry.
Thank you, and thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for holding this tonight and give you people here that are obviously your diehard political people a chance to hear from your candidates, so welcome. I guess what we're here to do tonight is tell a little bit about ourselves and bring you up to speed onto how we got here till today. I was born in Regina, Saskatchewan. Yes, I know. Lived there for only 11 months, but that 11 months allowed me to learn the game of curling, as a matter of fact. It was so important, part of the fabric there, that when I was born, my mom and dad did a coin toss. And my mom got to name me, and my dad had the hammer in the first end. That's how important that was. We ended up in Calgary. I was there for 11 years. And what that taught me is that I never, ever, ever wanted to live in a large city. I wanted to live in a place that was just like the region that we ended up in when my dad bought Sutherland's Bakery in Enderby in 1975. So that's where I actually went straight to school. I learned about customer service. I learned about what the community needed. We were a regional business. We were on the highway, so we got to meet people that traveled back and forth. We delivered bread from Revelstoke through to Kamloops and Kelowna. And as a 16-year-old, I took a little Fargo van. That was my first real job besides sweeping up the bakery. And drove the shoe shop. Went to all the little markets and resort stores. And so got to fall in love with where we live now. So super happy to be here. You know, the lifetime of being involved in that business, you know, when we did the location that we're in today, I couldn't believe that the city that we're in, it was that difficult to actually invest in the community. So I ended up running and getting on city council just to see, is this how it's supposed to be? And it was. There was challenges, and they, you know, we've managed to eliminate some red tape along the way, but there's still too much left. And I think that's our affordability issues and our housing, for sure, is trapped in red tape. So I was at the point in my life where I was just thinking about my kids and what their future looked like and their friends, and realized the challenges that they saw and the lack of opportunity. So put my name forward. I'm running as an independent, and thank you.
Thank you, Greg. It is now time for a question and answer period. Before we get started, though, I would like to remind everyone that every candidate up here is due the same respect as each one, regardless of what your opinions or your beliefs are. They're up here to tell what their party is offering. Anyone who is disrespectful or disruptful too many times will be asked to leave this evening because everyone is afforded the same opportunities to talk. Each candidate will be provided 1 minute to answer the question given. Each candidate will also have the opportunity to answer every question that is provided. We will be keeping track of time and will indicate time remaining by raising a yellow card at the 30-second mark and a red card at the 10-second mark. And I will cut you off at the 1 minute mark. We ask that all candidates assist us by being respectful of their time allotments. Questions were submitted by community members via email and our website to the Chamber Administration. Thank you to those community members who took the time to submit their questions. Due to the amount of submissions and array of topics, in the interest of allowing each candidate enough time to respond to the questions, we have elected to ask a total of 15 questions. All questions have been printed on slips of paper and will be randomly drawn. Candidates will answer the questions in an order determined by a random draw. Tomorrow, the Chamber will distribute a list of questions asked this evening to the candidates, providing them with the opportunity to respond individually through their media sources. So we will begin the question period. So the first question I'm drawing this evening from the basket, the order for the first one will be Sylvia, Sherry, Greg, Jed, and David. The first question this evening, due to the climate change and ongoing wildfire flood disasters, many U.S. states regulate home insurance premium increases. What are your views on statutory BC authorities accepting similar responsibilities? And I will actually pass the question to the table just in case you need to refresh.
So, is this on? How's that? Yep, good. So I think that a lot of things are related to climate change now. I think that the cost of everything went up, partially because of climate change, partially because we had a global pandemic, and people are looking for ways to make life more affordable. Sometimes the government has a role in regulating the cost of things, and sometimes, because we're a capitalist society, we allow the market to regulate those things. So often we look to the United States, I think, for answers, for leadership, and sometimes they get it right and sometimes they get it wrong. So I think that a Made in Canada plan is probably more realistic for us, and what that looks like, I think, is yet to be determined.
Thank you. And Sherry?
I too believe that that we need to start taking responsibility from a local level, and allow our citizens to address these issues from a local level. I think we need to look at the difference between pollution and climate change and how we've gotten here in the first place. A lot of information needs to be decided from us as residents, and I'm not I don't like when we do mandates from corporations or political parties.
Thank you. Greg?
Great question. I honestly wish that, we're in such a global world now that unfortunately your insurance companies just treat us as, again, a global entity, and I think they need to come back and go region by region. If you've owned a home and it's currently insured and you're trying to either sell your home and purchase another one in the area, you 100% should get insurance. It shouldn't be a question of, well, you're 150 kilometers from some fire somewhere. They need to look at each individual community, and they should be serving us, not the other way around. We're saying, sorry, you're good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you. Jed?
Yeah, so our platform is a platform that is a well-being centered platform. We want to create the conditions for people to thrive, resilient communities, flourishing natural world, and to make the government more transparent and participatory. So when it comes to this question, I don't know the specific policy that the BC Greens has on our platform for this question, but it sounds like it's a cost of living question to me. And what we're gonna do to address the cost of living, is we're gonna create the conditions for people to thrive by ensuring people have access to essential services like healthcare, education, and childcare, reliable and adequate public transit, affordable housing, and a strong social safety net. Climate change is going to make our lives more and more expensive if we don't address it, and this is a great question.
Thank you. And just a reminder to the candidates to hold the microphone up to your mouth so everyone can hear you. And lastly, we have David.
As most of you know, I actually work in the industry. I believe we're a free market party, so we believe that more competition will bring down rates. The thing is, what we cannot allow is monopolies.
Thank you. So our next question will be answered in the order of Greg, David, Jed, Sherry, and Sylvia. So the question is, all political parties at all levels of government preach about the need for affordable housing. Their actions, however, are to institute building codes, red tape, and regulations that make it absolutely impossible to build an affordable home. Why?
Why is a great question. I think if you want affordable housing, absolutely you have to make it affordable. The red tape, the incentives that are, not created to create housing. We know we're short 4 million homes in Canada alone, yet we're building, in the 200,000 to 300,000 a year, and that's just not enough. And there's not enough options either. We also need affordable homes for young people that, don't have stainless steel appliances and don't have marble. So there is those facilities just need to be built, and the market will dictate.
Thank you. David?
The question is why. We don't know why. The thing is, we need to cut regulations, we need to cut the red tape. What we need to do is make it easier to build and have more people building homes by having the right people in the province and right people in the country that can actually build the homes. Make land available and bring down the costs.
Thank you. Jed?
So we at the BC Greens believe that housing is a universal, fundamental right. The housing crisis is driven by speculation, insufficient non-market housing, and a lack of regulation to protect renters. So we will make a monumental investment in non-market housing run by nonprofits and co-ops. For example, my sister lives in a nonprofit housing. So the nonprofit built the housing and they rent it out to people for a portion of their income. So we will also implement vacancy control, and we will be constructing 26,000 units of non-market housing annually. And that's how we're going to tackle the high cost of housing.
Thank you. Sherry?
As many feel the same, I've got 2 sons that are living on our property because not only can they not afford to buy a home, they can't afford to rent one. And I think what it really comes down to is that we need transparency and accountability. We need to know where the money's going. We're building a number of housing now that's still unaffordable. And I think when it comes down to it is there's taxes being paid, there's money going into the government, but what we don't know is where the money's going. And I think that we need to be transparent and accountable, and once we know that, then we can fix this problem. How did Canada get here in the first place? And these are questions that we all need to be asking.
Thank you. And lastly, Sylvia.
Thank you. So affordable housing is one of the key components of the BC NDP plan. They've been building houses, they've been reducing the availability to speculators, they've been restricting short-term rentals to get houses back on the market, because in a free market, the availability, increased availability, will reduce the costs. The increases to the housing, the code are meant to balance growth with protecting the environment, cutting greenhouse gases, setting us up for the future. So we need to find that balance. There are good reasons to increase, lower greenhouse gases. And as long as we keep building homes, which is the plan of the BC NDP to put 300,000 new homes on the market in the next 10 years, then that will bring the prices down.
Thank you, Sylvia. So we're on to our third question. The order will be David, Jed, Sherry, Sylvia, and Greg. As a riding in the interior, we're vastly outnumbered in the legislature by seats from the Lower Mainland. How do you plan to advocate for programs and policies that benefit those living outside of metropolitan areas?
Another very good question. Far too long, the interior has been underrepresented and dominated by the coast. What we need to do, we need somebody who has a strong voice and advocates, somebody that's within government, that has the ear of the premier and can actually make decisions within that caucus. And I believe I'm that person. Thank you.
Thank you. Jed?
Yeah, so I'm a lifelong Shuswap resident, and I will always represent Shuswap's best interests to the best of my ability. As I said before, our platform is a well-being centered platform. We want to create the conditions for British Columbians to thrive everywhere in the province. So that includes the interior. And one of the things that is in our platform is we want to provide free transportation across the province and prioritize rural routes. Yeah, we want to have resilient communities, and we're going to work towards that.
Thank you. Sherry?
As an independent candidate, you're going to find that I'm going to come back to the same questions. It's the transparency and accountability and where the money is going to start with. We're already paying high taxes as it is, and we keep being asked to pay more, but no one's accountable about where it's going and transparency on where things are now. I think we need to get to the bottom of that. And once we do, then we can address the local issues that we have.
Thank you. And lastly, Sylvia, not lastly, Sylvia.
Thank you. I think in the beginning I said that I had a spreadsheet with 92 initiatives that have happened in this riding alone. That's not a party that's representing the Lower Mainland. That's a party that's been investing in hospitals, schools, four-laning our highway, replacing the Brun Bridge, building affordable housing, setting up supports locally for people who are vulnerable and have mental health and addictions issues, building the new bridge west of town, putting in a medical center in Sycamoose, adding doctors in our region. Matter of fact, 2 people on my campaign team were just able to get a frontline physician or healthcare provider, which 3 years ago couldn't have happened. Because in the past, we weren't adding the things that we needed, but we are now. And it's here.
Thank you. And Greg?
As my time as an elected official when I was a councillor, and then again when I was the mayor, an election happens, 7 new people enter the room, and you just have to work with respect. There's 93 ridings in British Columbia. There's the rural suburban divide, they call it, but it's with respect of all 93 people that are representing the province that you find out that the province is one place.
Thank you. We're now on to our fourth question. The order will be Jed, Sylvia, David, Greg, and Sherry. There has been much criticism on how the forest industry has not been managed properly under the current government. What are the goals for the forest industry for your government, and what does proper forest management mean to you?
What kind of got me into this is I started canvassing for Neighbors United on the campaign trying to raise support for the biodiversity and ecosystem health law, which is a law that would prioritize biodiversity and ecosystem health as a top forestry management decision. So I have a little bit of a warm spot in my heart for that, and turns out the Green Party feels the same way. If we manage our forests right, we can continue for generations to have good, high-paying forestry jobs. Just like I had, I worked for 7 years in the silviculture industry. I just think, and the Green Party thinks, we just need to manage it well to make sure that it is sustainable. And part of that is taking care of old growth forests because they have unique and special biodiversity and endangered species that we need in order, as humans, to survive on this planet.
Thank you. Sylvia?
Thanks for that question. Right now isn't a great time in BC for forestry. We've seen that, we know. But the BC NDP have been working towards a sustainable management of the forestry industry in BC for a long time now. They have been setting aside protected areas so that old growth forests are not cut down. And they've increased the number of logs that are processed in BC rather than shipping whole logs offshore. They changed the legislation for building tall buildings out of wood at the very beginning of their tenure. Protecting trees is something that's really important to me, but I know that the economy in BC often runs on resources, and forestry is one of them. So it's really important to me and to the BC NDP to manage our forests sustainably so that we have trees and we have a forestry industry far into the future.
Thank you. David?
I believe the forest has been managed poorly for a long time. And our leader, John Rustad, as you know, has a forestry background, and he's very passionate about it. We recently came out with a new platform where we're going to be changing the way stumpages, and we're also 20% is going to be harvested and maintained by Indigenous, who probably can do a far better job than the way it's being done now. And as for that, we would review all forest practices. And that would solve part of the problem when it comes to fires and other economy-related issues like sawdust closing down. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg?
I think the key is to actively manage a sustainable forest. Right now, we're not seeing any active anything. The fires that we've had are creating crazy emissions that anybody that's here concerned about the climate, that would be one of the first things to do is get in and manage the forest to reduce those events.
Thank you, and Sherry.
Okay. And I agree, we need to get back to managing our forests the way we did in the past and cleaning them up. We need to stop spraying our forests with glyphosate and killing our trees. We need to stop cutting our trees down and making them into pellets so we can send it to the UK for them to heat their homes. There's a lot of things, if we paid attention to what's going on with the pollution and cleaned that up, then we would be able to address our forest needs and what's going on right now.
Let her answer that again. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Do you want me to repeat what I just said?
They're on right now.
Hello? Okay. Yes, I believe that we need to get back to managing our forests without the chemicals like glyphosate that are killing our trees. We need to get the chemicals, the pollution addressed. We also, in case people aren't aware, we're cutting down trees to make into pellets to send to the UK for the UK to heat their homes. And these are issues that most British Columbians probably aren't aware of. It's when we address these kinds of things, then we can clean up the forests, and then everything else will take care of itself.
And we are sending our lumber to China.
Thank you very much. So we're on to question 5. Our order will be Sherry, Greg, Sylvia, David, and Jed. What is your plan to implement screening for children, youth, in our health and school system to identify precursors to addiction? Does your party have a plan to work at the source of the drug addiction problems we face today rather than trying to fix it?
It's interesting that this question comes up because I come from the background, I'm a family counselor, behavior specialist, and I left my career in 2004 because what I see is that we medicate children with psychotropic medications without we ever addressing the need for health and wellness. Food is important. What we feed our children, making sure there's no chemicals in our food makes a big difference in what's happening to our children, and it starts at infancy. So we need to get back to health and wellness and out of the chemical models and the pharmaceutical industry that controls so much is what's going on with our children. And I think when we do that, we raise healthy children.
Thank you. Greg?
There's plenty of pressure on young people these days. I mean, between the internet, social media, all of that just inundates them like crazy. I think that the real solution is the parents. Stay involved in your kids' lives forever.
Sylvia?
So my background for the last 5 years has been working in an alternate school where many attendees come from backgrounds of poverty and intergenerational trauma. And intergenerational trauma is the biggest precursor to addiction, actually, childhood trauma. The way that you deal with that is you increase people's standard of living. You make sure that people are able to get the food that they need, the mental health supports that they need. You make sure that they are getting good quality preschool at a price that parents can afford, and that when they hit the school system, they're getting fully supported by well-trained and well-educated support staff. That's what I do for a living. So, yeah, it has nothing to do with drugs. Thanks very much.
Thank you. David?
First, let's start with getting the drugs off the street. Then second off, the parents, we have to give parents some of the control back so that the parents can turn around, even if their child has an addiction back, they get them into involuntary care. And we need to have rehab facilities available so that people are quickly treated. And last but least, well, I think that we all have to be a community and we have to look after one another and make sure that the kids are taken care of.
So the short answer is yes, our party does have a specific policy in our platform for addressing children and drugs in school. So we will make sure that every school has mandatory evidence-based education for students about the dangers about drugs. And we also want to see every single school have adequate mental health care providers for the children and the staff, because we know how that's connected. So our platform is completely evidence-based. Every single policy that we have has been tested somewhere else and is informed by experts.
Thank you. We are on to our sixth question. We will start with David, Sylvia, Jed, Greg, and Sherry. What is your plan to support the increase of school support staff to lessen the burden on teachers, reduce class sizes, and give attention to children, youth who are in desperate need of extra attention due to mental health, learning disabilities?
Yeah, currently I do agree the education system is underfunded. We definitely have to have more teacher assistants, and there should be special needs for the children that need the extra attention. Every child has the right to learn, and that's something that we would have to look at when it comes to funding. But in order to get funding, we have to have a good economy so that more money can go into education. Thank you.
Thank you. Sylvia?
There's a couple of parts to that question. One is about identifying kids in schools that need extra supports. And that comes with adequate testing, adequate funding for testing, making sure that kids are identified early so that they don't have to wait till grade 3 or 4 before the supports are finally provided for them. So that's a funding issue. Those supports are, they come through the form of education assistants and special ed teachers, learning resource teachers in the school system. And again, after 20 years of working in the school system here, I think I have some experience with that. So recently, this school district actually cut the support staff and as well as custodial. So it's clear that the funding model needs to be upgraded, and people need to be able to get the supports that they need.
Thank you. Jed?
So, as I said before, we have a well-being centered platform. We're going to measure outcomes by how it increases the well-being of British Columbians, and we see that we need to start with education and making sure that every single child has barriers removed that would prevent them from succeeding, and because we believe that every single person has an equal right to thrive. So we want to make a big investment in increasing the amount of education assistants that we have and more teachers so that we can reduce class sizes. We want to see smaller class sizes and every single child having the adequate amount of time with the teacher to be able to fully succeed.
Thank you. Greg?
I think it's going to take a big change of the way things are going. I think we should pull out all the capital projects. The province should manage the schools, the school bus, the transportation. I think the teachers, the school trustees that are elected to work with the teachers, I think children are our greatest resource. So I think, why should a trustee try to figure out the drainage on a roof when she should be just focused on either or, the actual education of the children? So I think it's a matter of separating the two. The province runs and the facilities, and then the funds that come to the school district would be for the children.
Thank you. And Sherry?
We have the sickest generation of children that we've ever seen. And what we need to do is get back to seeing, how did we get here? How come every generation gets sicker and sicker? What's the difference between now and children growing up and when I grew up? And some of the things that we're dealing with today didn't exist in the 60s. And you know, sometimes life isn't best by chemical. It comes with a healthy lifestyle, and we need to get back to teaching people how to live a healthy lifestyle, and it starts at home.
Thank you. We are now on to question number 7. The order will be Greg, Sherry, David, Sylvia, and Jed. Have you, the candidates, been vaccinated for COVID, and do they believe it should be a requirement for healthcare workers?
That's a stupid question.
Greg?
Thank you. I have been vaccinated, and I do not believe that the healthcare workers. I have been vaccinated, and I don't believe that the healthcare workers should have been.
I'm 66 years old and I've never been vaccinated. It is my right to choose how I live, and I choose health and wellness.
Yes.
I personally haven't seen a medical doctor since I was 20. If there's a difference between health and wellness and disease sick care management. We are living in a disease sick care management for profit with big pharma directing us. It's time to educate people about health and wellness.
David?
I took the minimum. I had one vaccination, and our party and myself do not believe in mandates.
Yeah.
I think it's up to the individual.
Thank you. Sylvia?
Thanks.
Yeah, let's see what you gotta say. Sorry.
Are you done? Thanks. So I have been vaccinated for COVID. I've also been vaccinated for measles and chickenpox, or not chickenpox, all the childhood diseases, diphtheria. There's a good reason that people get vaccinated, because it changes your outcomes in illness. But I disagree with what Sherry said about that it has to be one or the other. You can believe in exercise and good eating and wellness and still believe in science, because science actually supports those things. Doctors do tell you to eat well. Doctors do tell you to exercise. Eating well and exercising and living a good, clean lifestyle those are tools in a tool belt to stay well, healthy and well. And so are vaccinations.
So yes, I've been vaccinated as a Green Party candidate. It's a requirement. We during the pandemic, we followed public health policy, and as far as future pandemics, it's an irresponsible question. We have no idea what future pandemics will be like, so I cannot say what stance we would support on required vaccine mandates. However, what I can say is that we are the party that follows evidence-based research, the opinions of experts and lived experience, and if the public health mandate says, if the top doctors say to do something, that's what the Green Party will support.
Thank you. We are now question 8. It will be Jed, Greg, Sylvia, Sherry, and David. Project labor agreements, or PLAs, seem to be an effective tool to increase tradespeople, apprentices, and encourage a diversified workforce to support construction and improve outdated infrastructure. What is your view of PLAs? Jed.
I personally am not knowledgeable enough to have an opinion on this, and I'm sure the Green Party does have a policy. If you're curious to know, anybody who's in the audience, please email me, I will let you know. But what I can say is that we want to make a significant investment into funding for people to train for these trades. Everything in our platform is measured by whether it will increase the well-being of British Columbians, and having good quality jobs and a thriving economy will increase the well-being of British Columbians. So we do want to increase the funding for education for people to get into trades.
Thank you. Greg?
Thank you. Yeah, unless you're in your mom's basement trying to crank out a Bitcoin, I think trades are the future. So we have to support trades. It is our future, and the young people are ready. They want to enter that force and make a difference for British Columbia.
Thank you. Sylvia?
So government support in building public infrastructure is critical, and to do that, trades are the answer. So the BC NDP has increased the number of spots for training in trades. They've increased the incentives for people to go into the trades, and they have been investing heavily in building hospitals and schools and highways and bridges and all of the things that have been neglected in the last couple of decades, I think. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say about that. We support the trades, and we definitely want more of them. They're the best paying jobs out there right now.
Thank you. Sherry?
And the trades are having more people retire than they are having them replaced right now, and it is definitely something that we should be considering. But the other thing that we need to consider is, what's the difference between the trades in BC and the trades in Alberta? Why do so many British Columbians go to Alberta to work the trades? And those are questions that we need to be answering. The affordability of living here and the price, the paychecks that people are getting, there's a big difference, and we need to address that.
David?
Yeah, we have to look at all options in order to get more people in the trades. Critical occupations are necessary for a thriving economy, so I believe that you should look at all programs and all incentives in order to get more people working specifically in trades, but in all occupations in this province. Thank you.
Question 9 will be Sylvia, David, Sherry, Jed, and Greg. How will Salmon Arm and the Shoe Swap continue to grow under your leadership, both population-wise and business-wise? How will you assist small businesses who are new to the scene and are still trying to establish a foothold? Sylvia?
Thanks for that question. So small businesses are the heart of our communities. We know that. Across BC and across Canada, small businesses invest in our communities as much as we invest in them. So it's really important that we keep them vibrant and productive. They are one of the main employers across the province and across our region, and they're a great place for people with years of experience, as well as people who are just coming out of high school and looking for a place to get started in their life. The NDP have cut the small business tax rate by 25% since they came in, which is meant to keep costs down for them. They've also frozen BC Hydro costs to keep those down, and they've also raised the limit for the MSP premium, the employer paid health tax, that's what it's called. Sorry about that. So they've raised that.
Thank
so
you,
that
Sylvia.
medium-sized
That is your time.
businesses don't have to pay that.
And David.
Anybody who's read my bio will see that small business is one of my passions. Far too long I've seen businesses come and go in the shoe swap, and they come in, they do not succeed, they leave. What we have to do is we need to cut taxes, we need to cut regulations. We have to cut the red tape and make it easier for businesses to succeed in this province, and especially in the shoe swap.
Sherry?
Again, we got to come back to accountability and transparency. We're looking at a government who shut us down, divided us, bankrupt our small businesses, and with no accountability whatsoever. And we keep giving them tax money, but we certainly do not know where that money is going. and then we get the same elected officials who want us to re-elect them. And I mean, they didn't get their paychecks affected like we did, and I think it's time that we address it by doing an audit of what the government's doing.
Jed?
As a small business owner who has friends who have small businesses, I can speak to this. I have heard the same thing from them as the party has heard from the small business leaders in the province, which is that what small businesses are asking for is help with the labor force. So we want to use an evidence-based approach and make sure that we take care of the basic needs of workers, because that's how we can allow small businesses of any size to thrive. So we will invest in education, healthcare, affordable housing, public transit, and a strong social safety net. But specifically, we'll provide direct supports to business, which is something that I've received as a small business owner in the past, and it's been very helpful. Grants, tax incentives, and low interest loans. And we want to ensure that there's equitable access to resources and training. And we will make prioritize partnerships between local governments and small businesses so that they have a fair chance against big businesses. Tax the billionaire businesses.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Yes, growth in the Shuswap. Jed's right. It's going to come down to labor and manpower, and that will be a lot of what dictates the success of a small business. I'd like to thank Sylvia for pointing out that there's been 3 cuts by the NDP to support small business. I just wish that she would come up with about 19 or 20 of more cuts from the 30 that they had in the last 7 years.
We're on to question 10. Will be Sherry, Jed, Greg, David, and Sylvia. Deaths from drug overdoses are at an all-time high. BC Emergency Services paramedics responded to 33,654 calls in 2022 and 42,172 in 2023. With the current policies clearly not working, what would be your plan to help the crisis?
Well, first of all, there's no such thing as safe supply. And we need to be addressing how this drug addiction is getting out there, and how the homelessness has occurred in the first place. They did a study looked into it and found out that since the safe supply's been out there, the deaths have tripled, and yet they want to give more drugs without a prescription. So we need to get back to health and wellness and understand why people are doing drugs to begin with.
Thank you. Jed?
So the Green Party's approach is ending preventable drug deaths through evidence-based policies and solutions grounded in dignity and care. We need a compassion-first approach. It's about saving lives. It's about keeping people alive. So we will be using evidence-based solutions from experts and the lived experience of people directly impacted.
Thank you. Greg?
Thank you. This is probably our greatest crisis at the time. In my opinion, there's nothing compassionate about what we're currently doing. It's going to take a start from square one, and we have to treat people 100% we need to pay for their support, whatever it is, however they got there. Sylvia pointed out, some of the people's paths that she's crossed, and there's many reasons why people are where they are now, but without full support, it's not going to get better.
Thank you. David?
Let's start with the root problem. Okay, right off the get-go, we have to stop the precursors from going into this country. The second thing is we have to get the prolific criminals that are selling the drugs in jail. Yeah. Third, we have to make rehab easily available for those who need it. And those who refuse to go, we have to make it involuntary, right? And we need a good education system, so we're educating the young so that they don't become the next lost generation.
Thank you. And Sylvia.
Thanks for this question. I think what this fellow here is talking about is the war on drugs, which has been going on for 50 years, right? Since the 70s, they've been talking about that. How are we going to stop drugs from coming into the country? Clearly, it's not working because we're in worse shape now than we were in the 1970s. So, what the NDP is doing is a different approach. They're taking an evidence-based approach that's working in other countries. They're providing housing. They're providing 650 new treatment beds in BC and increasing all the time. They are dealing with the immediate stuff like providing naloxone for free, making safe use sites like when we go to the bar to have a beer, making sure that people have the things that they need to keep them alive long enough to actually be able to access treatment. This problem started in 2012 when the Rustad government closed Riverview and threw people out onto the streets with no supports. And this is what we're seeing now. Those are the
Thank
things
you,
we need to
Sylvia.
deal with.
We are now on to question 11. It will be Greg, Sylvia, David, Sherry, and Jed. How do you plan on working with City Hall to encourage less red tape in building residential areas and helping new businesses to come to Salmon Arm, downtown, and industrial?
That is a great question, and I actually want to congratulate all the municipalities in this region because they do an incredibly good job of this already. I think the goal of this municipal level government is just to provide the opportunities that people need to come here and prosper and grow. So I think we do a really good job. Obviously, there's support provincially that can add to that, and I would fully support that. And I look forward to working with the municipalities that, in my opinion, do a wonderful job already.
Sylvia?
Thanks for the question. So, having been a city councillor for the last 6 years, I can tell you that the best way to make sure that this is happening is to develop relationships between municipal governments and provincial governments. The provincial government has brought in new legislation to make densification easier, and that's by changing R1 zoning to R10 zoning, which is what they asked the municipalities to work on. They were allowed to make their own your own local municipality approach work within the framework that the provincial government has set forth for us. So Mayor and Council and the people that live here know the area the best. They know when we needed a shelter, they came to the municipality and they asked what land was available, what was the best place. It's consultation and collaboration. That's how we're going to make it work.
Thank you, David.
It begins with listening. You need a provincial government that actually listens to this municipalities and the regional districts. The second thing is you need a good funding model. The provincial government needs to turn around and look at the long-term progress of each area, and but local governments still should be making local decisions.
Thank you. Sherry?
I agree. It needs to happen at the local level. And what we need to understand as citizens is we need to get involved in what's going on at the local level, because a lot of what's going on we aren't familiar with. I imagine that many people here aren't familiar with new BC Bills 44, 46, and 47 and what it means at the municipal council. And a program called ICLEI, which is a sustainable development program that takes away our ability to have a say and decide what's happening in our community. We absolutely need to be part of what's going on in our community and making these decisions at a local level.
Thank you. And Jed?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. How do you plan plan on working with City Hall to encourage less red tape in building residential areas and helping new businesses to come to Salmon Arm, downtown, and industrial?
Yeah, as you may know, I'm a first-time candidate. I'm not a polished career politician. I haven't been on a career trajectory. 8 weeks ago, I was a farmer, and I felt like I needed to act because acting gives me, doing something about it gives me more hope. So I don't necessarily have the answer to this question, but what I can say is that we want to build more housing, and we want to build non-market housing because that's how we bring the cost of housing down and ensure that everybody has their basic needs met.
Thank you. We are now on question 12. It'll be David, Greg, Jed, Sylvia, and Sherry. BC is not currently on track to meet its near or long-term legislated greenhouse gas reduction targets to fight climate change. If elected, what are the top 3 things you would do to meet 2025, 2030, and 2050 greenhouse gas reduction targets? If you're not in favor of the carbon tax, will you commit to replacing it with an equivalent measure in order to meet our climate targets? And David.
The simple answer is no. I believe that we have to look at our climate change on a global level. We should be doing things that make a big difference in the world globally rather than locally, that only hampers our ability as an economy and as a people. We make ourselves poor. So we have to look at policies that are good for the planet, but they don't have to be mandated within our province. Anything that we can do to innovate and bring down carbon emissions is a good thing. That should always be our goal, and it should be everybody's goal. Whether you go solar, whether you go nuclear for energy, or whatever, we should be looking at that. But the long-term strategy should be globally. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg?
I agree. The majority of the problems are a global thing that we just, I don't know why we ignore it, but we do. I think as for local, I think it should be left up to the individuals, the families, to make a difference in their communities. Numbers get thrown around, and there's on it obviously a fairly large economic consequence to where we're trying to go. I believe that it will come to consultation, more discussion, and innovation. Absolutely, we're not going. I'm disappointed that we've got nowhere at all with the carbon tax that we have. I don't believe there's been any benefit to the climate whatsoever. So I think it's going to take, some local investment in what you choose to do as a family, but definitely we need to have that global discussion.
Thank you. Jed?
Yeah, BC has a fossil fuel-free future. Addressing climate change is paramount for protecting the environment and future generations. And Greg, I'm going to correct you on that. The carbon tax was quite successful at bringing down our emissions. We were the envy of every progressive jurisdiction in North America. We were leaders. But it needs to be more transparent. We've been left to foot the bill to people while the fossil fuel industries have paid about 1/5 of what we've had to pay. They go on polluting for free, and the NDP, the main thing we will do, sorry, not the NDP, because they're not the BC Greens. The main thing we will do is end the NDP's massive subsidies of LNG and other fossil fuels. We will make the polluters pay and end the massive carve-outs and sweet deals that they've had redirected to well-being.
Thank you very much.
So I think the first thing we need to do is admit that climate change is real. We're not going to get anywhere if we don't trust the science that says that. All around us, in the forest fires that we're seeing, in major flooding, and changes of extreme
Please
weather.
let Sylvia speak.
The climate crisis is impacting all of us, and it's costing the economy billions of dollars every year. The NDP passed Climate Change Accountability Act. They're bringing in emissions caps for oil and gas industry. They're creating jobs in the clean economy, which is good for both the environment and our paychecks. They've offered rebates to help people transition off oil and gas to things like electric heat pumps and electric cars. Those are the things that we need to continue doing because BC has access to clean energy already through through our hydro run-of-the-river electric production. So it's not your turn to speak. And I really think that we need to have a little more respect in the room because you make it very difficult. So we need to be careful about who we vote for in this election, because if you vote for climate change, then
Right, thank you, Sylvia.
Can I finish without people yelling and screaming? It's ridiculous how many times the people
You
are
have
going
10
to interrupt.
seconds.
Thank you. I think it's important that we trust the science and that we elect people that believe in climate change. Otherwise, we are going to get nothing done and we're going to leave a mess for our grandchildren.
And can I please remind everyone that all candidates have 1 minute and your clapping does not allow them to finish their questions. So if you can hold anything till the end, that would help them speak when they're trying to answer the question. Sherry.
We need to follow the money. We need to understand that Canada is not the country that is causing the problems with climate change in the world. We need to understand what's going on at a global level and what's being dictated to us and what we need to do. Nobody does energy better than Canada. And if we understood what the real agenda was, then we would understand that this is about big money. And if we follow the money, we can get back to the source. There's a lot of information out there. Just look up ICLEI. If you've never heard of it before, it's time we all understood what ICLEI is and what it's about and what they have planned for us.
Yes.
We have question 13 will be Jed, Sherry, Sylvia, Greg, and David. Provincial and federal politics in Canada are built on political parties. What is the number one reason you believe the party you represent is the best for BC or Canada, or the number one reason you are running as an independent?
So the number one thing to know about the BC Green Party is that our platform is meant to be not fear-mongering, but talking about hope for the future, what we want, and the lens that we're looking through is through a well-being framework. We will establish a British Columbia well-being framework that prioritizes the needs and perspectives of all British Columbians, with Indigenous communities at the center of its creation and implementation. And we will create conditions, as I've said before, for people to thrive, for resilient communities, a flourishing natural world, and make the government more transparent and participatory. Every single policy that we have is based on evidence, has been seen to work, proven to work in other countries. We don't make anything up.
Thank you. Sherry?
The party's over. The reality is the party system works for an agenda. They don't work for the people. I wasn't going to vote. Nobody represents me. Who's represented me in the last few elections? No one. We're always voting out a party. We're never voting in a person who represents us, our community. And it's time we got back to representing the people in our communities so that we can govern ourselves in that regard. The party system's over. They don't represent us. And that's why voting independent is probably going to be the best strategy.
Thank you. Sylvia?
So I think one thing that the party system does provide, I mean, anybody knows it's not the perfect system, but the one thing it does provide is a platform. It means that if you vote for the NDP and they've presented their platform, that's what you can count on your MLAs voting in favor of and supporting going forward. It's not a perfect system, but we do need some kind of system that provides that sort of predictability. If you vote for an independent, they could go and vote any way they want, which might not be why you elected them. So the NDP, actually, I share a lot of values with them, and I think the main piece of that is that we leave no one behind. We live in a society where we're meant to take care of each other. We're meant to live in community. That's what a community means. We used to get that in a church community, and we get that in why we join clubs and the school pact and things like that, because we live for community. So it's
Thank you,
important.
Sylvia. That is your time. Greg?
Thank you. I believe that I'm a center-right, fiscally conservative person. If you ran your household the way government currently does, you wouldn't be happy. You would actually start to make the bad choices that government makes. So one of the things I would propose, I've heard a lot of wonderful things tonight. It all leads to big government, big expense. Nobody's talked about the $9 billion deficits the current government's running. We just can't afford it. It's your money. I think it's now, maybe the choice is to pick independent, and let's get fiscally back on track.
The Conservative Party of BC truly is a grassroots movement. When I became a candidate, there was 3 office staff. With the party being so small and listening to the people, there's no lobbyists, there was no big money. It would have been nice to have a little money, but we had no big money. And the fact is that we actually listen to the people, and it's basically like a fresh start. I would not be a candidate otherwise if there hadn't been the Conservative Party of British Columbia. Thank you.
So we are question number 14. It will be Sylvia, Jed, Sherry, David, and Greg. Can you address the growing homeless population that is becoming a major problem everywhere? What would your party do about this urgent situation while considering the valid concerns of taxpayers who live close by and are footing the bill?
So the homelessness problem started, like I said, in 2012 when the Rustad government closed Riverview and pushed people out into the streets without funding the things that people needed to be successful. Treatment beds, housing, affordability stuff. It's important to remember that housing first is an important piece of this. And the BC NDP government has been pushing very hard and making sure that they bring the houses to the market that they promised to bring. 95,000 homes, I think, up to this point have either been finished or are almost finished. Some of those houses, a lot of those houses are built through BC Housing, and we were able to get over 100 units here so that they're subsidized, they're affordable, and some of them have supports for people that are living with vulnerabilities.
Thank you. Jed?
Poverty is a political choice. We can eliminate poverty in British Columbia. It actually would cost $2 billion to eliminate per year, to eliminate poverty, but it's costing us $14 billion to deal with the end outcomes of poverty. So it's far cheaper to eliminate poverty, which is one of the factors in homelessness. And so we will raise social and disability assistance to above the poverty line. Right now, social assistance and disability are way below the poverty line. How many people are we forcing to be in poverty because of that? And by we, I mean the NDP government. We will simplify access to necessary support. We will reduce homelessness by increasing affordable housing availability. As I said, we're going to create non-market housing. We're the only party that is proposing investing money into non-market housing, which is the true way to create low-cost housing through nonprofits and cooperatives for the lower income people. And we can redirect a ton of that money from fossil fuels into poverty.
Sherry.
Again, we have to come back to how we got here. How is it that our homes are worth $1 million when so many of us purchased them so many years ago at a fair value? Why is it that our children cannot afford to they can't afford to buy a home, but they can't afford to rent? We need to get back to transparency and accountability. We keep giving more tax money to the government, but they have no accountability about where it's going. Where is the money going? We need a complete audit to find out what they're spending it on. And once we get control of that, then we can address the homelessness that shouldn't be happening in Canada to start with.
Thank you. David.
This has been a problem over the long term. It's started with the federal Liberal Party, who've been in power for quite a long time, Provincial Liberal Party, and then the subsequent NDP government. But it's also a worldwide problem. We should not accept that we're going to be a third world country. We definitely have to address the people that are homeless on the streets. Why is it they can get Britco trailers out to construction sites and people's house, and yet we can't get people off the street now? We have to take a look at all options that are available. Thank you.
That was maybe the best question of the night so far, you guys. I'm glad you all stayed. Yes, what are we gonna do? On top of homelessness and how do we attack that? There's healthcare, there's education, there's so many things. I fully believe that the money that you currently pay on taxes, and I believe you all pay way too much. But if we could, again, go through and start to gauge value for our investments, there's enough money to solve every problem. And nobody ever talks about that. So that's where we need to start. We need to realize that we have to spread it across multiple. Our team the other night sat and we just were anticipating questions for tonight, and we had well over 150. So there's a lot of problems out there. The money is there, we just need to spend it in the right places.
So our 15th question will be Sherry, David, Greg, Jed, and Sylvia. Do you accept the International Panel on Climate Change scientific research regarding the reality of man-made climate change? Do you agree that there is a climate emergency? Please describe at least 2 solutions you would support if elected. Sherry.
Again, it comes back to follow the money. And we need to understand what the ICLEI program is and how it's targeting Canada and what they have in store for us. Do people around here even know what DRIPA is? DRIPA says that we do not have the right to own property. So we are being led by an agenda that most of us are not aware of. And it's time for we, the people, to get educated about what's going on in our own backyard. And then we can take back our country. There's a difference between climate change and pollution. And we need to understand that Canada is not the main pollution problem in the world. They're targeting us. And we keep paying lots of money in taxes, but nobody ever tells you where that money goes. We need transparency and accountability.
David?
Do I believe the climate is changing? Sure. The climate's been changing for a long time, since the beginning of time. It changes all the time. The fact is that do humans cause change? Probably. Right? Most likely. The thing is, we should got to follow science. We need to innovate. Do I think it's a crisis? I don't think we're at that point. I think that everybody in this room and everybody around the world should be doing their very best to mitigate any kind of problem for our children and for our grandchildren. And probably the best way is actually really take a look at the real scientific data and come to your own conclusions.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. I don't think we can tax away the issues that we have. So once again, it comes back to poverty, for example. Poverty is not good for the climate. Until we start to care about everyone and where they are and give them the hope that they need, the climate is, again, one of those 55 things we need to work on. So I encourage everyone to look amongst yourselves, your family, to make the differences you have. But if someone's poor, and they need to have 2 jobs, and they need to drive 220 kilometers a day, that's not helping the climate. So let's support people and their lives, and I think then, and only then, can we make a difference in all that needs to happen.
Thank you, Jed.
Yes, of course, I accept that that is true. Denying that humans have caused climate change and that it is an existential crisis is as ridiculous now as claiming that cigarettes don't cause cancer, and there was quite a bit of people spreading doubt on it at the time. I actually understand climate change because I don't know, I might be the only person at this table who's been to university in this millennia, and I've actually taken a class on climate change. I have some skin in the game. I hope to be around for 50 years, and what we need to do is stop dumping billions and billions of dollars into subsidies for climate change, giving them subsidies for fossil fuel companies, giving them sweet tax carve-outs, and redirect that money into the well-being of British Columbians. Fossil fuels only contribute 3.9% of our economy in BC, and yet we give them billions of dollars, and we give them an unfair advantage over small businesses.
And Sylvia.
I think Jed and I can agree pretty heartily on this one. Is there a climate emergency? Obviously, it's all around us. We just saw an unprecedented hurricane hit the south coast of Florida. 3 years ago, there was a new term called an atmospheric river that had never happened before. The forest fires last year were unbelievable. Of course, climate change is real. And yes, of course, the amount of carbon that we're putting into the air is making that worse. There are all kinds of programs that I support for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. One of the big ones is electrification, making sure that we're moving away from oil and gas, taking taxes from big polluters like oil and gas industry who are currently making record profits, and putting that back into things like solar, geothermal, wind, all the things that we can run as a cleaner energy. So I think that we have lots that we can do, and I think that the NDP has started that process already, and I'm hoping to support them with the BC Clean Energy Plan that is developed with the Greens to move forward.
Now, we are ahead of schedule slightly, so I'm going to consult with the Executive Director and also ask the candidates, would you be interested in answering a couple more questions?
Yes, please.
If we have some more time. 2 more. Okay, we will answer 2 more questions, and that will get us onto the time schedule that we should have been. Only if they're easy is what I got from. So we will start. Okay, we'll just go straight line across the table. Oh, Danielle is going to shuffle. I will get my cues from her. So we will be starting with Greg. Transgender care in our health system is important to ensuring that transgender youth and adults are provided the support that they need to go through their transition. What are you going to do to ensure that transgender care remains available through health providers?
That is an interesting question. I know that we need to respect everyone that got to wherever it is that they're at any point in life, whether it's about to go down a path of addiction, whether it's about to make a terrible mistake in their business lives, whether it's a separation. Without the respect of everyone that walks on this earth, I don't know, we have enough ill out on you guys, so I think it just comes down to care, and we need to care for each other, respect each other, and honestly, case by case, from one human to another. We just gotta make this work.
Thank you. Jed?
So we at the BC Greens affirm everyone's fundamental human right to be who they are and to express themselves. We are in complete support of the, can you repeat what the?
So what are you going to do to ensure that transgender care remains available through health providers?
We're going to do everything in our power because it is the correct approach, and there is no moral standing for any other approach.
Sylvia.
Thank you. So I personally support transgender care, and so does the BC. I hope you're running as a candidate next time. Yeah, I think you should too. When you're done,
Or you will be asked, no, please stop. You will be asked to leave if it's again.
Thank you.
thank you. I'm going to start again, if that's okay. So I believe in transgender care. I believe that the BC NDP has shown through years of supporting transgender care and support for people going through medical issues. So we need to accept that we don't know anyone better than they know themselves. We don't get to make moral judgments about who people are, how they present themselves, what medical procedures they choose to have. That's between them and their doctor. It's not up to us, it's not up to government to judge that or make decisions on that. One of the things that I see the most in the alternate school is kids leaving the public system because they get bullied so badly because of attitudes that we've seen here tonight about not accepting people for who they are and judging and calling out, and feel free to just be completely rude to people and bully them, which is what's happening here tonight. We need to make sure that everybody feels accepted and that everybody has an equal opportunity to be who they are.
We have no particular policy platform when it comes to this, but the one thing we're not going to do, we're not going to cut any healthcare spending. So whatever's covered now, no matter what it be, I would imagine it'll still be covered.
Thank you, and Sherry.
Transgender care is something that, we need to support all people. But we need to be careful when we're talking about our children. We don't allow our children to get tattoos. We don't allow them to smoke. We don't allow them to drink. We don't allow them to do things that they're not able to make decisions of, and they are not getting informed consent. The other thing that I am really adamant about is that parents need to be involved in what's going on with their children. And we shouldn't be taking children away from parents to do this kind of thing, because it's permanent and irreversible, and sometimes they regret their decisions.
So we will have one more question, and then we will do our closing statements. Public boat ramps on Shuswap Lake are inadequate for low water levels after August of every year. They are also unsafe for your trailer tires as they have drop-offs at the end of the cement ramps. What will you do to expediently fix this inadequacy? Sylvia.
So this, I think, goes straight back to climate change. We've seen year after year after year of drought in the Shuswap. There's no denying that. Lake levels are lower than they've ever been, and they're consistently low even during spring runoff. Fixing that problem isn't about building a new boat ramp or investing more money in infrastructure. It's about making sure that we address the problems that are causing climate change in the first place. If I just have a hard time believing that whether or not you get your boat in the lake is the most important issue when you're talking about a provincial election. It's a bit insane. I don't know who submitted the question, but maybe it is to lighten the mood. But I don't think there's an easy fix for that. I think that it's a problem that we're all dealing with, and we need to all be together in the solution to make sure that it gets done. But it's climate related.
Sherry?
I really don't know enough about to speak about, but I don't believe it's related to climate. I believe that we really need to look at some things that we're not aware of that's going on in the world, and without our knowledge and consent. And again, we need to be transparent and accountable, and see where the money's going.
Thank you. David?
I don't believe this is the most pressing issue that we have in front of us, but I think that when it comes to the boat ramps, I think that we have to look at it by a case-by-case basis. So there is no right answer for this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Another great question. So, here's what I think. I think the shoe swap is a lifestyle. And if you have a boat, and you're blessed to have a boat, good for you, congratulations. There's some people that are sitting on the dock watching you, take them out one day. I don't believe this is a provincial issue. I got asked a lot when I was door knocking. What I would do is I would go to your local municipality and regional district, and I would pick a day when Sylvia's away on vacation, see if you can get something done about that.
Thank you. And Jen?
I'm 38 years old. In 2074, I hope to still be alive at 88 years old, and I hope there's still a lake. And I hope there's trees around it. Has anybody noticed any forest fires recently? Yeah. It's not too late. There's still time to tackle climate change. We need to pull together now. And I mean, I don't know, I just feel like I want to know that we can still have this beautiful province that we live in for the rest of my life and for the lives of my nephews and their kids. We have all the technology. Why give up now? Like some of the parties have suggested we do. There's nothing we can do about climate change apparently.
Thank you, all the candidates, for your responses this evening. A reminder that all candidates will receive a copy of the questions that were asked this evening, and we encourage you to post your responses on your website and your social media. Now we will go into our closing remarks. Each candidate will give 3 minutes for the closing comments, and you will again receive a yellow card at the 30 seconds and a red card at the 10 seconds, and we will start in the reverse order than we started. So, Greg, let's go.
I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce once again for hosting this, and all of you for coming out. What you're here for tonight is to pick the person in this upcoming election that you feel will best represent where you live and what you believe will benefit. A minute's not a lot of time. Some of my team are gonna head over to the night cafe. If any of you want to join us over there, and we can maybe carry on the conversation of some of your concerns that a minute didn't allow. What I'm gonna task you all with doing, because we represent you. So instead of looking up here and just seeing an independent, a Green Party member, an NDP, and a BC Conservative, what I'd like you to do is take those 4 things. When we were at the City of Enderby, whenever we had to make a decision on a bid tender, we had a little breakdown of what were the qualities we were looking for. So what I'm gonna ask you to do is consider leadership as the first thing, experience and work ethic as the second, teamwork and communication as the third, and last but not least, respect. Because without respect, there's no point in sitting in a room with anyone if you've already made up your mind. So based off of that, do I believe that I have skills in all of those? Absolutely I do. And that's why I think I would make a great MLA for the shoe swap. What I've learned over the time is that this should be really easy for you guys to do, because this community, this region, is made up of those exact 4 things. We have leaders in all aspects of the shoe swap. We've got municipal leaders, church leaders, school leaders, leaders amongst your family, leaders amongst your peers. So that's an easy thing for you to consider. As far as work ethic and experience, it's important. You need someone that actually can go and navigate and negotiate with the bureaucrats, because we're just elected people. We come and go. You guys get to decide whether we stay or go, but there's people that are there doing the job that you've got to have the ability to go in and work with them for the betterment of your community. Teamwork and communication, I mean, that's what it's all about. And the Shuswap has shown us that, from the Shuswap Trail Alliance to the many, many groups that have succeeded and prospered and given us what we deserve here in the Shuswap. And last but not least is respect. So, look at and figure out who here is going to respect the whole region and represent you in Victoria. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you guys for putting your names forward. Shelley, Christine, I want to thank my team. You guys are rock stars. Thank you very much.
So my priority is focused on a well-being centered platform, as I've said, and we need to create the conditions where people can thrive. The other two parties have proposed solutions to issues like the drug crisis or poverty or mental health that are dealing with the crisis at the end of those trajectories. The Green Party's platform focuses on the beginning, the prevention. That's what we need to do for a long-term plan. So yes, the Green Party's plan is long-term. It will take, but we need to think ahead for the future. I want to think ahead for the future because I'm still young. But I want to talk about climate change, and I'm really upset with what the current government is doing. Admitting that climate change is real is just not good enough. We need to move forward, not backward, on CO2 emissions, and that's precisely what has happened since the NDP has been in power. They've been telling us for years we believe in climate change, but then they've done nothing but make us pay an unfair portion of the carbon tax while carving out and tweaking it so that the big polluters and the oil and gas companies pay almost nothing in comparison to us. They pay 1% of the rate on water that we pay for fracking. I mean, we're not fracking, they're fracking. But yeah, the NDP has not started the process. They've actually dragged us backwards on climate policy. They have ensured that we will not meet our emissions targets, and they are actually have the worst climate policy than the previous administration. So the NDP will tell you up and down all day that we believe in climate change. They will do nothing about it. So as I mentioned before, in this election, you can vote for a party that denies climate change, or one that gives lip service to climate change but is beholden to lobbyists and will cave into their demands. Or you can vote for the only party that believes in science, listens to experts, and will take real action on climate change while supporting British Columbians with increased rebates. We need to create the conditions where people can thrive. BC Greens has a platform that puts the people and the planet first. Reach out to me with your questions or concerns. I want to hear from you. A vote for me is a vote for science, evidence-based decisions that are informed by experts and lived experience.
Sylvia.
So I want to thank you again for coming. Your presence here tells me that you are engaged in the process and you're working to understand the issues, for the most part. You represent the democratic process, as we know it. I believe that some of you likely came here to support your candidate. We saw that. But some of you may be undecided. Perhaps you've come to get to know us because in a region as small as ours, we know each other. We see each other at the grocery store. And sometimes, maybe often, we vote for the person over the party. So let's look back to where we were 7 years ago before the BC NDP were elected. ICBC was in serious trouble, insurance rates were going up. Speculators, Sherry asked why our houses cost $1 million. It's because the previous government allowed speculators, John Rustad's government, allowed speculators to invest in housing and use them as an investment. Instead of keeping them on the market as houses, sometimes they sat empty, waiting for the market to go up. There was a money laundering scandal. There was a teacher's decision in Supreme Court where the teachers finally won a legal battle, which our government, John Rustad's government, fought with your taxpayer dollars for 14 years over contracts that they tore up with teachers. Rustad's government promised that there would be a family doctor for every person, but 3 years after they made that announcement, there were 250,000 people fewer with access to a primary care physician. And after all that, Rustad wants another shot, only this time he's veered hard to the right. He's sold out on his values. In the interest of votes, Rustad is supporting conspiracy theorists and climate change deniers. Those beliefs will not make for good governance. We've seen tonight where those beliefs take people, how uncollaborative they are, how disrespectful they are. So think hard about who you're going to support in this next election. As your representative in Victoria, I'm committed to joining my voice with your voice. I will fight for those who want transparent government and fiscal responsibility. I've heard your demands for more climate action and supports for our most vulnerable neighbors. I hear you, and I'm with you. I have a spreadsheet describing 92 items that the BC NDP accomplished in this riding alone. They were things like affordability grants for students. They were housing initiatives. They were highway improvements. They were bridge replacements. All things that we needed done here. Things that have been on the books since the last government and didn't get done. All those things happened here despite having an MLA who was not part of the government. Now imagine what could be done with an MLA who was part of the government. Someone who has the skills and the commitment to collaborate with people. I built relationships. I understand the issues. I have 15 years
Thank you, Sylvia.
experience.
That is your time.
The province is in crisis, whether it be healthcare, whether it be justice, whether it be education. People want to see change. Yes. We are the change, right? We are a grassroots movement that actually listens to the people. We believe in smaller government. We believe in transparency. We believe in accountability. Whether it be locally or provincially, we have to make big changes, and we want to see those changes. The changes that you want. I live in this area, and I think that having a representative that actually knows this area very well, I know every little community within this area. We all have the big issues, affordability, high costs of housing, etc. But every little community also has their little issues, right? So you have to have an MLA that actually understands this whole riding. That they've been to Seymour, they've been to Falkland. We need to go in a different direction. We also really have to think about the future. Our children, our grandchildren, and future generations. We do not want to have people packing up and moving to Alberta. We don't want businesses failing and all of a sudden the downtown becoming a ghost town. We want this area to prosper, whether it be the small farmer, whether it be a small business owner, no matter what you do, we want you to succeed. And that you'll do through smaller government, less administration, and less taxes. So also with our party, John Runstead, our leader, wants every MLA to have the mandate and an oath where they actually have 3 votes. So you actually have a say. Unlike the past, where MLAs have to vote along party lines because they think there's some kind of discontent. He welcomes MLAs to vote for what people in this area want, unless it's a budget or it's a vote of confidence. So you can be confident who you elect myself, you will have a big advocate at the table of a governing party. Thank you.
Sherry.
So we've all been through a lot in the last 4.5 years and seen a lot of changes that have happened. You know, party politics and their broken promises are too far removed from the needs of the people. And I believe, as many others in BC, that it's time to resurrect a more direct relationship with community, So the voices here in this riding are heard and acted upon, and I'm excited to be the direct link for you as an independent MLA, where I'll bring forward your concerns, and we'll vote in the legislature for you, not for the party needs. We're always voting out a party, and we need to get back to vote people in that represent us as the people. They need to be asking us as the people. And I thank you for coming tonight. I had no idea where things were leading me in the last 4.5 years, and this was the last place that I thought I would come, but I've got 8 grandchildren, and I've got a community who have been coming to my house for the last 4.5 years to bring community together so we can talk about the issues that are going on. You know, we've had people unlawfully fired from their jobs for not complying to mandates, and we're in Canada where we have free speech. So, you know, will the governments be hiring back those people with severance pay that were unlawfully fired? You know, we have a million people in BC don't have doctors because our clinics are closing, our hospitals are closing, our doctors are leaving, not just the province, but the country. And we need, as citizens, to ask those questions. Why is that happening? And, you know, for the future, for my children, my grandchildren, we need the accountability and the transparency. We keep throwing money at them, but they don't tell us where it's going. We have no idea where the money's going. And we can't keep going this way. It's not affordable to live here. And we need to get back to basics. We need to get back to health and wellness. We need to get back to being a free country that we believe that we're living in, but is an illusion. And it's time that we, the people, stood up. And I'm a leader that will do that. I've done it for the last 4.5 years, and that's why, you know, I'm here. So if I think with the party system, it's so close between the Conservatives and the NDP that having an independent there is going to help keep their feet to the fire.
Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to come down and hear our candidates this evening. And thank you again to all of our candidates for coming down and answering the questions. I know some of them were easy, some of them were hard. Voting is currently open right now at the BC Elections Office at 451 Shuswap Street, Southwest. And voting day is on October 19th. This forum is now concluded, and we ask all attendees to please exit through the door at the front of the building respectfully. Thank you very much.